So thank you. Good morning again, Barbara. Good morning. Nice to have you here. So I wanted to share, I went to a presentation yesterday. So I know, Sarah, I asked you what you wanted to learn this week, but I was so impressed about the smelly septic presentation that she did. There was no smell to it, but you can just, once you go to a septic pumping experience, your nose never is the same. It just never is. So when you guys, anybody get a chance, I know Barbie probably have, but Allie, you've been, I think you mentioned it, but Sarah, have you been to a septic experience yet? Oh, it's the most beautiful thing. So just don't get too close, but you do want to look in and you want to get educated. So you do want to kind of see. So I was pretty impressed with this presentation that she did, that I will share the screen here so you guys can actually see it. And so this was Placer County, which both counties are pretty much kind of the same. I mean, there'll be similarities to it though, but I wanted to share this with you guys today from the beginning. So I'll get it a little big. So can you guys see it? All good? Perfect. All right. Because this actually had a lot of pictures and things. And there was a lot of things that, I know Barbara, Miss Barbara down here, she's been doing real estate for, I think, over 30 years. So she's got maybe 35, maybe somewhere around that range, but it's a lot more. So we're going up. So it's a lot more. So I've been doing it for 26. So I respect Barbara and everything, but that she has to offer too. But I was impressed that there's all these new systems that are out there. I knew they were, I had no idea what their names were, but I want to share and show some of the pictures that she actually shared on some of these job sites, which was nice and educational for us as well to kind of see. So as you guys, may or may not know, there are soil tests. I've got a couple of escrows going on right now. Are people interested in buying some land? And there's always a reason, because there's always a reason why the land is going to be cheaper, because I know there just always is. There's going to be a reason. There's a couple of Alta Sierra pieces right now that it's like, wow, they look super attractive. But the deal is that you might have to like cross this creek to get to it. Can you imagine what the county is going to require you to put all the system in to cross this creek? Anytime you're crossing waterways. So if you guys see those up and down Brewer Road on Alta Sierra, if you ever see, oh, I want to buy this property, you see this creek coming through and well, how am I going to get the house on the other side of the creek? Just be prepared that you're going to have kind of a little bit bigger challenges. So you want to at least share that with your buyer right there, going, look, this might be a little bit more challenging because of this. But every single parcel is required to have some kind of perk test. Now, in around the 2017, I think in both counties, there were an upgrade or a change in the county code when it came to 2007, when they had these different changes of you get a perk and mantle just because somebody says, oh yeah, I got a perk and mantle and it was done in the 90s or it was done in 1985. Don't close escrow without calling up the county and saying, okay, can you please let me know, are you going to be able to continue and extend this one? Are you going to, is this still valid, or are you going to require a completely new one? And this year I've had one environmental health person tell me on one piece of property, on my mom's property, that they had to redo a whole entire new one, even though hers was only done like 5 or 6 years ago. And I had another one that was done in the 90s, and it was all determined on the engineer said, no, I can go back out there without even digging any more holes, do a little bit of research, do a little bit of whatever he wanted to do, and then come back and then recertified it for today's standards. So that was interesting. So don't, just because they say, nope, sorry, can't do it, call the engineer who did it and say, can you help me, please? And then maybe they can do that, because it was only about a maybe $350 report versus redoing a whole entire new one for about $1,400. So there has to be some type of system that is going to be valid. As I think we shared before, guys, some septic systems are ranging. They used to be $5 or $6 grand. When Barbara and I started, I could do a septic system for like $4,500, like a standard. It was called standard system, which means that it just flowed into gravity flow into the dirt. Now it's like nothing standard. Everything's got to be engineered. Everybody's got to have something new and something different to it. So, you're basically going in and having a standard, a low pressure dose system, a supplemental treat system, and a no system. Like pretty much, I don't know, Barbara, have you ever had a piece of property where they said, sorry, just can't have a system?
I haven't encountered that. Thank goodness.
So thank goodness that we haven't, but because now there's so many new systems. Now the county, there's been some systems in the past where they're exploratory, because maybe there's a existing house on the property and the septic system fails, and now there's like this small little section where you can't really put in maybe a pressure dose or something, and so they're allowing these new systems to kind of come in. So I know sometimes they allow them, but they haven't been officially approved in writing that you can actually totally use them. But now they're actually opening them up, because I'm going to show you some pictures that fascinated me. So basically, when a soil testing is done with the septic consultant in the county, they all merge and they all come together. I just had one maybe a month ago, which was kind of sad, because the buyer paid like $1,500 to have that done. They, the Perk and Mantle, they paid a survey to come out for like $400 to have a survey. And then they decided that the septic system was going to be in the $40,000 to $50,000 variety. And they just kind of got cold feet and left. So you're basically digging these, at least these 3 6-foot deep holes to determine the soil depth based on the amount of effective soil found and the type of system is determined. And so let me show you these kind of pictures. So here we go. Now, I'm not really a guy that likes to get I like to get dirty sometimes, but I'm not sure if I want to climb into holes. But here's like a Perk and Mantle. So the fun thing, when you guys go out, you'll start recognizing this. When you go out to like a home that's for sale and you're walking around the yard, and maybe you see there's no risers for the septic system, which we're going to show, but maybe you see kind of an area where it looks like the dirt has been recently kind of moved around. And then you can kind of see, okay, well, you can kind of see a little sinkhole for one hole over here, and about 6 feet more over here, there's another small hole about 3 feet wide. You get to kind of recognize. I got people in the waiting room. Sorry, there, little Sharon Diaz. Sharon, sorry, Sharon. I hope you weren't there too long. I was getting so excited about septics that I just lost track. So, all right. So let me get this out. So basically, you kind of recognize this, and I've actually seen perk holes. Oh, let me get back. I've seen actually perk holes where now the grass, a year or two later, the grass is growing, and you can kind of see a little intake too of kind of where things are kind of like, where they were at, because you want to like get to know, like on my mom's property, for instance, the county came out with the engineer, they all come out, they have fun party, and they kind of determine where your septic needs to be depending on where the soil is. So just because you walk out to a 5-acre piece of property, you got the most gorgeous view right here, and boom, there it is. And this is where I want to put my house. Start looking around if there was a Perk and Mantle, and you go, wow, there's a hole here, there's a hole here. So maybe that's where the leach field needs to go, not necessarily the house. So I kind of like to share and show a little bit. Now I'm going to be going out next Monday around 3 o'clock and meeting a buyer on maybe Nancy Way in Alta Sierra. So if anyone wants to come, and actually I just want to meet her once, go talk to her about the property, what to kind of look for. And then at that point, she's going to go drive around, look at 4 or 5 or 6 different pieces of property. I'm not a big fan of going out and going walking country property and just if you want to go look at the property, you go see it and then call me if you like it. But I want to at least meet with them once to show them kind of what to kind of look for. I will be careful if you ever get an MLS listing that says, you will be shot, and, a company agent must be accompanied. Every once in a while, you'll see some verbiage on an MLS private listing that they say, hey, don't just send your clients out to the raw piece of dirt. Most agents are okay with them going, but I like to at least let them know. So basically what they're doing is they're jumping in the hole, and they're having little squirt bottles, and they're having a water party, and they're kind of like doing some fun little kind of like seeing how fast this percolates. And you're going to love a couple pictures coming up. So
Eric, I have a question before you go on. So you had said that if you see some holes, they may have done a test already, and that's where the leach field has to go instead of the house. It cannot be changed.
You would have to check with the engineer, because
Okay.
they might have dug over here on this side, dug 6 holes. Now that they'll always bury the holes, but you can just see the indent if there's weeds growing and stuff over it now. But let's say they dug a hole over here, a hole over here, and a hole over here, and they go, this is the better suitable location over here. And it might be right in the middle of your view property, but that's kind of where it would be. But that doesn't mean that you can't go over this other direction, but they might say, well, if you go use that hole, it's going to have to be a different system that might be a little more expensive. So you kind of have to kind of go off of what theirs are. Now, the county on my mom's property on the new subdivision, they basically kind of took this area and said, here's all these trees, don't cut them. Here's where we want you to have your building envelope. And this is the septic. And here's your repair repair area, because every new property build will have a septic area and they'll have a repair area. And the buyers need to realize that that repair area means you can't go like stick a pool in there. You can't go, maybe a garden would be fine, but you can't put a granny house or, or some illegal structure, because that's the repair area that needs to stay untouched for a repair area in case your septic systems failed. I've had 2 systems in Alta Sierra that have both failed, and we actually one in Alta Sierra and then one up in Nevada City, that they actually literally had to put a whole new system and had to like literally go and pump from the tank up to the backyard. It was a bomb went off. This beautiful yard in Nevada City turned out to be just dust and dirt and piles, and it was expensive, but we had to get it done. And we actually discovered that during escrow, during inspection. So I would tell all you new agents and anyone, it's sometimes you're going to get a buyer who goes, yeah, I don't need to get a septic, I'm good. Are you nuts? Because what if they didn't do that on that house, and then they would have had the $30,000 bill after close of escrow. So if they ever tell you, you make sure you have a couple pieces of paper, waiver, and I want it all over the place, a waiver that they're not doing a septic, like even twice, almost signing it twice with the email that they gave you saying no septic, and staple that to it and put it in the file, because you just don't want that to happen. I almost had one on a bank repo, and I'm sitting there in the backyard in Alta Sierra, and I'm looking at this. Somebody, no sellers there to tell us what they're doing, but I'm noticing that they were building some kind of pond feature in the backyard. And I'm looking at these little white rocks about like this big, kind of like piling and scattered and in the bottom. They're up and around in the hole. I'm going, this is a leach line. Somebody dug into a leach line, and now they're having a problem. We got a speaker who's talking. We might want to mute someone.
Hi, you're welcome.
All right. Is that Barbara? Is that maybe can't? All right. Okay. Well, all right. So, so we need to be careful and watch that. So because I've been around and I'm going, and they go, we don't need to get that inspection. I'm going, guys, look at this right here. That's a leach line rocks that they dug into. We will get it. And yes, it was about a $1,500 repair that they had to come in, redig, put a new pipe in, and then put the system back together. So it's kind of important just to kind of understand that a septic system isn't something to mess around with, and a well is not something to mess around with. If hey, I don't want to get a well inspection or a well report. It's like, okay, well, if you run out of water next week, I'll bring you a gallon of water. So you just kind of have to kind of be careful with that. So you can see on a field measurement percolation, they actually go in and fill up a little hole, and then they drop water, and then they kind of see how fast the water like disappears and it percolates into the soil. So every piece of property has some kind of rock bed, gravel, clay, and they kind of want to see how fast it sinks. So if you have the most beautiful dirt, and sometimes, when I walk around with builders, and if you go around with well guys and, other different people and septic people, they can tell. If I walk onto a piece of property, because there are some in Alta Sierra that are just full of rock. And then there's some that have no trees and some that have lots of trees. So a well guy could go out and go, well, you're no problem. I can already see the soil, the lay of the land. So it's always fun to go on your little adventures with them and actually go and actually witch a property with a well with their two little wands and sticks, and actually go, wow, this is really working. This is kind of the coolest thing. So it's kind of fun to kind of see. But they actually, here it is, here's a picture. And they just go out there, and then they start kind of like, putting a drill hole, and they kind of see how fast the water like percolates and comes back, into that. So here is kind of a standard system that kind of looks like you got your residence, and we're going to show you some pictures. Now, there are some stipulations you guys need to watch on your reports, because if all of a sudden, and you can talk to different septic people, but they are generally speaking, the 3-bedroom, you can have a 3-bedroom house on a 1,200 gallon tank. But if all of a sudden the house has 5 bedrooms and you have a 1,000 gallon tank, you might want to question that. I'm kind of like going, I want to dig into that a little bit more. Where do these other invisible rooms just appear? Because if you only have a smaller tank, they kind of want the tank to be kind of sized per the bedrooms. But I've seen a 3-bedroom on a 1,200. Most 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms will have a 1,500 gallon tank. And I want to share though too here, guys, is that we've got a tank pump before, and then there was been like, let's say the tank is pumped and there's some roots coming in the tank, and you got to come back out and actually get all these roots out of the tank. later, because they're not doing it right then and there, but these tanks fill up very quickly. You take a couple loads of laundry and in 10 showers, your tank is now back up to full water. Now, maybe all the solids, and we'll go into what solids mean, but all the solids on that are now gone, but you still have to come back and pump the tank again to remove the water to be able to access the roots. So kind of watch that of when you guys are, needing to get roots removed, and letting the seller know, if you're representing the buyer, that, you're actually, most of the time the seller is going to get the septic pumped. But on bank repo and stuff, you have to ask for that to be done, or the buyer has to do it themselves, because sometimes the bank comes back and says no. So basically, you've got these little drop boxes that kind of come in here, and then you got these little leach lines that kind of come out. They're trenches, and I'll kind of show you kind of what this is a tank being kind of dropped in, and they're big. There's a company called Sierra Precast, which are the ones that we get most of our tanks around this area. And I think, don't quote me, maybe Barbara's done one lately, guys. I believe some of these tanks are going to be in the $2,500 to $6,500 kind of range, depending on what kind of size that you've got going. All county now, and the new ones all have to have risers. And so these are the risers. So if you guys don't see risers, and about 50% of the houses right now just don't have them and never put them in, but now they're requiring them to be in. And just heads up that if you are representing a seller, I always ask and say, guys, it's about 3 feet. Or the one that we did up in Cascade Shores, it was like it was on this hill, and they were like 4.5 feet deep, and they had to bring an excavator in to actually dig them up. And so that's another, $800 to hire a tractor to come dig them up. So we told the buyer before they came, hey, my seller tells me they're pretty deep. Do you want to put risers on these? Or you're gonna have to dig them up with a tractor again. So he says, you know what, go ahead and leave them unburied. We'll go ahead and put risers. Now, a riser of maybe 2 feet, 3 feet, they're going to run around $300 to $500. But when you have like a 4-foot, 6-foot riser, I mean, they could be in the $700 to $800, $900 range. So just let you know, it's like, oh, don't tell everybody, oh, you guys can just put risers in there later, but at least let them know that what they kind of cost and what it entails, because you still leave the concrete lid in some cases down below. Sometimes they take those off, and then you just have the green. See this little green lid right here? So when you actually go around and you're looking at things, you're watching for this. I'm going to show you something here that you're going to really like in just a minute. But you can see all this seal right here that they seal the top on this. Now, after several years, roots start getting in here. This is what's called an inlet tee right here. And you got an outlet tee on the other side. So you got 2 of them that come and go. So when you guys have which is very common, they have like a crack in the inlet or the outlet tee. And this is what's happening. If you put all this dirt back on top of this, what's going to settle faster? The tank or this dirt right out over here? The tank settling. So every once in a while, there's a crack that happens right here, that they have a crack where this breaks. So what they do is they dig this back, and then they put in a new pipe right here to connect it in, so there's not any leaching going on in the cracked area. And this is kind of where you'll find a lot of clogged toilets and clogged issues that you're having, is that it's coming down here and clogging and hitting this. Because if that starts going like this and going lower and lower, how do I get this? Like lower and lower this way, you can think there's not much of fluid can kind of come in there if that's still sinking. This is generally about maybe a $200 to $300 fix. So not that big a deal, unless it's 4 or 5 feet deep. And then you're in trouble, because then they got to bring a tractor in here. And I've had a couple of those. So that's kind of where your roots come in, is kind of like right into this little section right there.
Why would they have put it 4 or 5 feet deep?
Down in the very beginning of life, I have no idea why some people stuck these things down so deep, so low, but most of them are about, if you're digging, most of them are about 2 feet. 2 feet, they have to dig down to the lids. It's about maybe 2 feet, 3 feet. And that's going to be an extra, maybe $300, $400, extra digging. So I always tell my seller, do you know where your septic lids are? Can you show me where they're at? And they go, oh yeah. Cause if I'm walking around with them and I don't see the lids, then I know I'm going to tell my seller, you know how deep it is? No, I can't remember, because they're not the ones that dug it last time. It was the seller probably dug it last time. So I'm saying, well, here's your choice. My little 99-year-old man, you can dig these if you want, or you can hire somebody to do it, but it's going to be about $300 or $400 more. So I'm setting the expectation at the listing appointment way before I'm even discussing it. And I'm going to share a listing I just took, that I'm going to share a picture of what theirs actually looks like. And because this is what you're looking for. So here's a somewhat of a standard septic system look when you see 2 lids. And let me get into the ugly part here. Now, every septic tank has a baffle or a wall in the middle. I've had walls starting to corrupt before. They've actually had to jump in there. Now, by code and by law, I believe you have to have 2 men on a job because of the hazmat hazard. And they get in these cute little white suits and little masks and everything. And they jump in these holes and you have to have somebody. So if there's repairs that need to be done, it's a little costly because you're probably $60 an hour times 2 for 2 different people. But all of your like solids and stuff come on one side. And then your oils and your waters and stuff kind of raise to the top and your solids go down below and it drips right into here. And then it, only the liquid leaks out. So this is kind of a deteriorated tank of kind of what happens over time. Barbara and I have been alive for so long that they actually had redwood tanks there. And I haven't seen a redwood tank in a long time, but Barbara, you've seen them. You've seen, redwood tanks. That crazy?
Yeah, I've seen buses.
Yeah, so there, and then there's redwood lids. So back when I started in the 90s, we had a lot of redwood lids or redwood tanks. It's like that's just gross, it's not gonna handle. So here's kind of a deep trench. So what they do is they come out and you can see they've got gravel they put in here and they put in these pipes. And so you're gonna see several of them here in a minute. And here's all these new names. There's one actually in Alta Sierra that I'm totally familiar with, like on the corner of Ball and Alta Sierra Drive. And it's got, if you ever walk out there, guys, and you see, and there's another one I saw in Auburn Lake Trails that they have they have this mound. It's like this 4-foot, 5-foot mound sitting here as big as my office. And they got these little white little caps that come out that are about like maybe 3 inches that are just popped, on each side. And I'm thinking that's a sand filtration system. Now, am I a fan of that? That's probably okay. But that just tells me that there's problems with the soil percolation here because they had to go with the sand system. Now, Placer County, she shared, they're only doing maybe 1 or 2 a year because there's new systems because people don't really want a mound now in their front yard or side yard, this beautiful kind of mound thing. So they're changing it to like a Hoot system or Advantech system or a low pressure dose system or an Elgen. And these, I didn't even know what in the world these were down the ones on the bottom. So I've never heard of these. So these are things that we're going to now put into our scripts. And we're going to say, you're going to sound really good, Sarah. Oh yeah, we could put a Hoot system in, we could put a Advantech system, low pressure dose. Wow, this woman knows about her septic. This is great. So these are words that you kind of want to hear and you want to know because this, I've seen an Advantech system. They're a little above ground. They have a little thing and they actually hum a little bit. And they tell me that you can drink the water when it's done. And so Sharon, you want to drink the water?
No,
I think so. I'm not doing it. So Sarah, you're writing these down. What a good little student you are. See, there you go. So, all right. So we'll go to the next one. I can come back to that one, but let's look at the kind of what these do on these pressure, what this means on the pressure dose, because I'm going to show you a picture here. You see this picture? What are we seeing now? 1, 2, 3. Now we're seeing 3. So the new listing that I took yesterday, he's got 3 green lids just like this around his property. And what does that really mean? That means he's got the septic tank with the 2 green lids and he has a pump station that's pumping it. Now this pump station could be the pressure dose or it could be pumping to the back of the house, up around the corner, somewhere where it's not gravity flow. And so when you look at that kind of, you think, if you have all this pressure and this pumps going on, your electricity bill, even small little things like that are going to be pushing things, going different direction. But you've got this pressure manifold box right here that's going to be in between, or this could be 100 feet away. This line could be a long ways around the back of your house. You'll have another manifold box, which we're going to show. And then you're going to have these leach lines that are going to have trenches. We're going to show some pictures of those. That basically what's happening is that your soil is not good enough to perk. So on Wednesdays, we're shifting all of your liquid down, trench 1. And then maybe the next couple of days or the next week, it's going pressurizing here and pressurizing here. So they're pressurizing it going down. And it's going to show these little squirty parties here in just a minute with clean water, of course. So you've got these little 3 boxes and then inside here is this pump. Now, you guys, I want to share a couple things about the alarm systems. If you ever go to a house and you have a box that's sitting generally on the outside, close maybe to these boxes or maybe out by the system, and I'm just going to show a picture of it. It's usually a little gray box with a little red little light, little light that could light up. If you see that, If you go underneath the house and you see one underneath the home, I saw one recently. Those are alarm systems that if this mechanical stuff in the middle here stops working, it sounds an alarm at your house. So please let your buyers know that, let them know that this is what the alarm is. This is where it's at, because I got a call one time ago, hey, I keep getting this buzzing noise underneath my house. And truth on this one is that we had no idea that they actually had a sewer ejection pump, and the seller never disclosed that they had one. And it was so hidden, this alarm system that was underneath the house behind some kind of wall, and it was totally being hidden kind of thing. So we never noticed that. And so we had a problem with this pump that was their sewer ejection. So make sure if you kind of see that, and you'll see them generally, you just be smart about it. If you're at a lakefront, and Sharon's selling a lakefront in Lake Wildwood, and it's all the way down the bottom of the hill, where's the sewer going? It's certainly not going in the water, right, Sharon? How many times, Barbara, we had that issue in Wildwood? Oh, a couple, but it's okay. So it's the sewer is supposed to go up. So then you want to start asking questions of your seller going, where is it? Or I'm kind of looking around. Generally, they're on a little wood platform box that could be on the side of the house, or a lot of people disguise it by putting a planter box, a wood planter barrel box on top of it. And I go, guys, there's your sewer ejection pump. So I've got two of them, one in Wildwood and one in Lake of the Pines, that we're sending just a service pump or somebody to go out, to go look at it, to do an inspection. Home warranties do have a sewer ejection pump, and I think it's $75 or $45 for the sewer ejection, I believe, and $75 just to cover. I think the First American showed yesterday, actually, she said it covers like $500 of your sewer ejection pump. And these pumps could be, $1,300, $1,200, $700 to $1,400, depends on the pump size and stuff. So, it's got a float in here, and it floats. And if something's wrong, because if your alarm goes off and you don't take care of it, guess what starts filling up in here? And it all of a sudden, can you get that, guys? It starts bubbling in your yard. And so if you ever go out and you kind of start smelling something as you're exploring the yard, then that's another problem. All right. So look for that little box, and I'll show what that is. But here's like the manifold up there, where these are like little valves. And so, guys, there are maintenance that you actually have to do on these systems. I can't remember where it was, but we think it was Meta Vista. We closed on a house, or we were in the middle of escrow. And you'll see these little white pipes. You'll see you don't really know where the leach fields kind of go, but I can see my tanks right there. And the leach field's got to go somewhere around here. But if you see little white pipes or little green pipes that are sticking up, and they're usually about maybe 3 or 4 feet apart, and they're about maybe 20 to 30 to 60 feet long, and you have another one, that's your leach lines. Well, this house, when they've owned it for 5 years, and the septic people go over there and they put on there, hey guys, filters were extremely dirty. You need to clean them, on a maybe every couple months kind of basis. And the seller said, oh, we weren't aware of that. We never even cleaned them. So then that opens major red flags of, like, if they're not clean, how much solids and stuff are getting in down these pressurized lines. And if their lines are getting clogged, you're going to have a backup issue and a problem. So there's all this kind of fun stuff that we're sharing here on pictures. So how long do these things need to be turned is just going to be discussed with the engineer of the system. A lot of these systems, guys, have been actually recorded in the county. They actually have recorded that they actually need to be inspected by the county on a regular basis. Laura here at the Placer Environmental Health says she has 700 and something of them that actually sends out little postcards every year saying, don't forget to you got to get it inspected. And either this company or whoever needs to come out, do a little inspection on it. And so some of them, I think Barbara and Sharon have seen that they're actually recorded with a dollar amount. They might be $150 fee that might be coming that the county might charge. And so there is some fees that they do. So just because you have a septic system and your stuff just goes into the ground doesn't mean you're done. This literally, there's things that have to be done and some maintenance on that. So kind of look to see what kind of system that maybe you guys have. So this is the squirting party. So she assured us this was clean water. Okay, it's a little what do we have? This is a Sparrow would love this. My kids would have died to go play in this and have a little water park here. So basically, you can see in this pressure dose is that they're actually squirting little holes. So this isn't, when you flush your toilet, and then it goes up. There's like, 2.5 gallons of water that, the flow will kick in. So 2.5 gallons of water, it gets kind of pushed out to the leach lines and little pressurizes, and it pressurizes, and then it kind of squirts out into your soil. So that's kind of what that's doing. So here was, I think I talked about the monitoring, the maintenance programs that are required on certain these systems, because some of these systems are so new that they want to know, are they going to work? Are they going to keep working? I mean, somebody's engineered them. So I believe that's kind of what's happening, is that the county just wants to come out and actually make sure that these systems are okay and that they're not going to have an environmental, catastrophe hazard kind of issue. And this is just a bunch of stuff about what the slopes, because guys, it is sloping. So if you guys go out to a super steep property and you got a steep property, there's different calculations that they calculate by the soil and by, how steep things are. But let me show you this Advantech system. So now you have this system, which I believe she's got one more. Now this is kind of crazy, but that box right here. So you got your tank, then this is, your kind of sewage kind of comes in here. And then it kind of does all this stuff. And she was talking about that they have like little bugs and stuff that just kind of live in here and kind of decompose the bacteria and do something to it and kind of do its thing. And so, that's kind of fun when you go to, if your kids you ever sell a house and all of a sudden you get a picture of your family out there playing and your kids are playing in this, you might want to tell them to stay out of the box, because that's not the sandbox. That's kind of a stinky kind of mess. So, and there's kind of the leach fields of this. And it was interesting that she shared with me is that some of these tanks right here, these guys are your black line of your irrigation line. You guys have gone and done sprinklers and stuff around your house, and you got that black line that you plug in a small one and go to plant. This is basically what these are. This is just your simple white pipe with little irrigation pipes that go in with little small holes in it and stuff. So these are kind of getting kind of fun and kind of advanced, but you can see this is not the place to put a pool. You would have a problem. And so here was kind of a fun little one. This is actually, for those who have been doing this a long time, that's surprising. That's a lot of leach lines right there. This must be a 10-bedroom house, because that's a lot of stuff going on. Most of the time, guys, there's like maybe three lines, maybe four. But these new pressure ones, they probably have a little bit more. So a hoot system, and check out these little kind of fun systems. Now they basically have air. They got air systems, and air comes in here and moves this around. So I don't know about the hoot, but if there's air down there, maybe it's smelly. I don't know, but it's air that goes in and kind of swooshes and moves things around and kind of stuff. So that's a little hoot system.
Air.
All right, there's an alarm box. You guys see this alarm box? This one is sitting outside. Now, most of the ones, I've never seen one like this. I always see them attached to a house. They're usually, screwed to the house, usually right on the side of the house, on the same side that wherever your septic system is out that way, there's that. So if I'm showing a home and I see that, then I know that there's a pump station. There's a pump station involved, and I explain to them, guys, if this little alarm ever goes off, you probably should call me. A lot of times, guys, there's a sticker right here that says the company that installed it. Just call that number right there. Sometimes I say, okay, or to call Sarah. She'll take care of you. All right, another little picture, some more. Oops, did I go backwards? Oh, then this is Presby. Now check this out, Barbara and Sharon. Check out if you ever seen this thing before. These are some kind of little balls things with these little kind of soil things. This is only 6 inches of sand that they sit on, and they actually kind of go through. And this is if you have a really bad soil that they're actually putting these. But see these cute little things right here, all these little pipes? You'll start seeing these when they bury all this. You'll see them kind of either could be on both sides. So that's a new system that I've never seen before until she took a picture of that.
This is all in addition to the tank, right? These are the leach lines. This is what happens to the liquid after it leaves the tank.
Yep. Okay. So most of your tanks, you're going to have the same tank. You're going to have an inlet and outlet, and then these little things are added to it depending on what type of soil you have, what type of space. Because if you only have the small little space of a little area, because some of these lots are 0.11. And if your septic system, which I don't know how they even did that before, but if their septic system goes out, there's not a lot of place to put this. So this is kind of a new system that they've actually have put. This EcoFlow, here's like this EcoFlow. So this one actually does look like it's a different kind of a septic tank there, Sarah, with the 2 lids, but it comes in here. Is this the one that's, yeah, this one, you guys, guess what this is? You know what? Actually, that it's coconut husks. She says coconut husks go on the bottom of this, and it's coconut husks that actually do something with the chemical reaction to something, and they actually have to be replaced around 7 to 8 years. So I'll let you come replace the coconuts in 7 or 8 years. I don't know if they're coconuts they're crushed or what they are, but this system is based on coconuts, which was called the EcoFlow system. I've never seen that tank before, which is totally tripped out and kind of like so cool. And it looks like it's plastic too, which is kind of fun, but this is kind of what it does. And this little splash thing right here, basically when the water comes in here, your toilet just goes a little bit this way, a little bit this way, a little bit this way. So, I mean, who comes up with this stuff? This is like so engineered that it's crazy. So I can tell you one of these systems may be in the range of the 40 grand because, you know, you got to get the imported coconut from Hawaii. All right, another trench system, just more pictures of stuff, and that's LGED. Never even heard of this before. So there's your tank, your inlet, outlet, and then here comes these square pillows. They call them pillows. And so you got these little pillows where your water comes through and then it percolates into these pillows is kind of what it does. And so kind of fun. And this is, you know, there's only one trench here. So this is a small area as well. And I believe this one, guys, was that they were telling me that most of this system is down in the Rockland, Roseville, Placer County because of the clay and the soil. And there's not a lot of soil down there. It's more hard pan. So we're probably never going to see one of those up here, but I just wanted to share. And, you know, it's the pictures are wonderful to kind of see what kind of happens there. And so then this is they actually can, this is the pillows that she said there's a cap here. You can peek in there, open it up and see what water content is there and stuff. So some kind of crazy things. It's 6 inches of sand, another 6 inches of sand, and it just sits there and it kind of percolates into these little pillows filled of whatever they're filled in. The guy was pretty strong because whatever they're filled in, he was carrying 2 of them. So they must be straw or something, some chemically reacted something. So kind of fun. All right. This, we don't really need to get into seepage pits, but Barbara and Sharon have probably seen some illegal seepage pits in the past. I've cleaned out a 55-gallon drum barrel that was at my mother-in-law's illegal septic one time. That was quite fun. But these are typical leach fields. Typical systems cannot be used to do a subsoil being clay, and these are down below too, that they actually drill these big holes, and they kind of with the tractor, and they kind of have the seepage, and they just they fill it with rock and stuff. They're 30 feet deep. And they just it just drips into this, you know, liquid drips into there. And so that's what's kind of important, guys, is that, you know, and she was asked yesterday, how many times what's the length of time you need to pump your septic tank? And she said it depends on kind of the people that live there, how many people that you're in, but generally they're saying about 3 to 5 years. If it's a couple, maybe you could go a couple little years longer if you have a ton of people, because what happens is when you guys go to your fund report is they're going to talk to you about what's called sludge. They're going to say the top of the sludge layer and what it looks like, because these guys can open it up and they can see, wow, this looks like it's pretty healthy. If they open up a tank and they see the water level is any different or the water level changed or over the baffle, there's a problem. And they can know it just by opening up and go, there's a problem with maybe the leaching of the water. But you don't want to get your solids. If your solids keep building and building and building and building and building and building, and they get to the very top of your tank, and then they start dripping little pebbles into the other side, then those little things will go in there and block your whole entire leach field. And can you imagine what you'll have to do if you drilled a 30-foot pit and you had now your solids inside your pit? You got to redo it. You got to go find another place and dig it all out. So kind of fun, guys. There it is. Just kind of drips in, you know, drips into this little couple stone kind of stuff. All right, boy, that was really fun. There's the monitoring kind of stuff, repairs, you know, so they made mention, guys, that if you were ever to go do a remodel or an expansion, she talked about right now, most of her calls are the ADU units of getting them in, and you need to call them and check with them and say, do I have room? Can I put this? They used to back in the day, if I had a house and I wanted to add a bedroom, we could go out there and just extend a leach field 20 more feet. And generally that was probably good with it as long as the soil kind of worked that, you know, and it perked well. But now they're wanting systems and new systems, and they need to be certain feet away from you know, the ADU. And so there's all these new regulations that they are having on that. So talks about, yeah, better to change footprints, soil, you know, everything is kind of just in. Placer County said that they have most of their stuff totally online, that you can actually go and check it out and see kind of what it is with the note. But I have her phone number. Yeah, I do have her number. If you're ever in Placer County, you can give her a call. But yeah, water and sewer are most important things. What buyer or seller needs to know is that seller septic permits include repair permits, partial history, soil testings, results on site septic yield, well yield, and bacterial and chemical test on the well, because they actually did say that if environmental health will make sure that you requires it. And did I already miss it? It's like they want 1 gallon a minute in their well. And so that was kind of important too. So if you don't have a good well, you're not getting an ADU on your property. And she shared with it that you need 1 gallon a minute, which is 1 gallon's that's a pretty low, crappy well. But sorry about the no pun intended on our discussion here about that. But the ADU, if you have 1 gallon a minute on the house, you have to provide another 1 gallon a minute for the ADU. So then that really puts it at 2. So she's actually on some low producing wells have been able to tell them, sorry, you've got an issue. You need to go either drill the well deeper or give me some more water. So,
all right. Is there a different requirement for Nevada County? I thought that the requirement for Nevada County was a minimum of 3 gallons per minute.
And maybe Barbara and Sharon could share this if I'm not getting it correctly, but there's a holding tank. If you go in and actually build a house for a structure and you go in and say, hey, I want to build a home, I believe there's a different requirement of it's going to be somewhere around anything under 3 gallons needs to have a holding tank, but I believe it's 1.5 gallons. Is it, Barbara? Do you remember? Is it 1.5? I think maybe.
Yeah, I thought it was 1.5, but I do mostly like Wildwood.
Yeah. So you got good wells there. So, but I believe it's 1.5. I think Placer was 1 and Nevada County was 1.5. So if I went and drilled the well and I only had 1 gallon, it was pretty much done. I couldn't even build a house until I found more water. If you have 1.5 to 3 gallons, they require a holding tank, and those holding tanks could be above ground. They could be, $1,300 poly, $1,300 to $1,700 poly tank that they can just put in next to it. If I lived on property, I'd probably want a big, huge holding tank above gravity flow and something that the power goes out, something that my pump doesn't have to pump all the time, or just for fire protection. So, but when I do see these above ground tanks, I mentally kind of think the well might immediately, unfortunately, we think the well may not be so great here, because not everybody wants to spend an extra $5,000 when they're building to put in a bigger tank just to have fire, stuff. But yes, you will need to have 3 gallons a minute, or you've got a holding tank needing to be installed. And that's tough, because what happens is that when you're it's not my fault that I got 3 gallons a minute, and the next year we go through 20-year drought, and then all of a sudden I've got 1.5 gallons sitting there and my well's drying up. What do you do in that case? There's people in Nevada County that are trucking in water because they don't have water, and they so those are kind of like scary. We're probably past the ditch water, but there was a house right down here and there's a few of them still out there that literally they drink the NID ditch water that goes through the county, and then they go through about 6 or 7 filtration systems. It's really quite fun that when you realize that they've never changed the cartridge on those for many years, and then you turn every once in a while, the water, when they clean the lines, the water comes to the bathtub all brown and stuff. So those were quite fun, talks, but that's why that property I sold for $67,000. So that's what it is. All right, guys, that was quite fun. What else? Shoot some questions, because we've got the septic experts of Sharon Diaz in the house, so she can tell us anything and everything about septics. But I thought that was fascinating, guys, of just seeing the pictures of what these things look like and kind of getting a little more feel of 26 years in the business and being able to at least learn some more stuff. Any questions about anything? No, all good. All
Just absorbing.
Oh, look at that. That's another pun on words. All right. I will
Thank you.
I will